say that.
Because you lunatics have the heat set at 74.
What is it? What is?
I've been a bit chapped because I bite them when I'm anxious, and then the heat comes down and it's not more. So
We're arguing about Meg's need to turn down the heat every time she walks in the door, and our sadness about every time she does that. I mean, she's independent, so she doesn't care that we're sad about that.
I don't care. What I care about is the fact that it's 74 degrees in here.
So amazing. I don't know why that's a problem. What is your ideal temperature? We should take a poll and see.
I don't know, something around what everyone else considers normal. 72 is even still kind of hot. I keep my house at 69.
Well, that's your problem. You've acclimated yourself to coldness. I don't.
It is my problem.
72 and a half is my ideal temperature. I don't know why that is, but 73, I feel a little warm. 72, just a little cool.
It's nice we don't live together.
Yeah, right. I'd be in fucking sweatshirts. Oh, sorry. I'd be in sweatshirts.
Oh, yeah, we're live.
We're live on the thing. Ed's on, Brian's on, Carrie's on. Hey, some of my favorite people in the whole world. Hey, everybody.
Not mine. I don't know any of you. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, you should, because they're amazing.
I bet they are.
They are amazing. Okay.
Speaking of people we don't like, the topic today.
I'm going to get the questions out. You carry on.
Let's see. First, we'll start with announcements. We have had a record here in our office where we've actually seen each other's eyeballs more than 2 days.
3 days in a row. It's been
2 days in a row.
Awesome.
I was with the South Dakota Corrections Association last week.
Oh, man, that's fun.
And that was a lot of fun. Working with an individual client quite a bit this week. And you were at the Innovation Expo yesterday?
I did. I spoke at the Innovation Expo yesterday. I've met a ton of cool people, both investors and students who are looking to be innovators and entrepreneurs, and that was really fun. We've got everything from B2B software people to, I met a young man named Kevin. He is a computer science major at School of Mines, and he is a Marine, ex-Marine, I guess always a Marine, not active duty anymore. And he wants that's right, he wants to develop a drone detection system, because one of the big challenges, he just got back, that's newer to the battlefield, is that these drones that they can put together for $100 off the internet, they'll pull ordnance and drop them on the convoys as they drive around. And they're so quiet, they don't even really hear over the noise of the machinery. So and even if they see them, they really don't know how to have a way to get them, knock them out of the sky. So he wants to innovate this idea around drone detection and destruction, basically. So I'm going to connect him with some of the people I met at L3 Harris at our aerospace conference that I spoke at about a month ago. So, 6 weeks now. So hopefully I can connect the right people. So that'll be cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. Hey, Annie. Good to see you. All right. So anyway, that was, we nerd out, super nerdy, fun, interesting stuff. I love what we do because we get to meet all these amazing people.
Yep. Let's see. What else is on the calendar?
God, it's not as much as it has been.
Department of Human Services in a couple weeks.
That's nice. Right. The retreat. I'm
going to be going to Gillette to the planetarium next week.
You are? I think that got postponed, didn't it?
It did get postponed, so I can still attend. Nice. So say prayers for me, because I'm going to be on a bus full of fourth graders.
God bless them.
Yeah, well,
I'm saying a prayer for them.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
That's way smart. Oh, one thing we're starting to do a show that's going to be, it's like a podcast, but it's going to be on social media, called How the Hell Did I Get Here? And it's going to be about transitions, and when you have the moment of how the hell did I get here, and maybe that starts you on a new journey, or maybe it's after you've worked so hard to get to a place and you're like, how the hell did I get here? Awesome. So that's, we're going to be looking at people's transitions and how they, the big experience in their life that's been pivotal for them. And then we're going to connect that to our culture type so that people can connect and relate to how other people go through change, either like them or not like them. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to be doing some interviews at the South Dakota CEO Women in Business Conference next Friday. So
we are where we will have available for sale.
Oh, good idea.
Our 2020.
You got yours here?
Yes.
IX Leadership Planners.
That's right. Thank you very much. Here they are. Beautiful. There's they're just fun. They have a monthly theme. They've got quotes from the book. They have spaces for weekly goals and gratitude. And then every week on this live, we're going to have prompts about what the topic is and what to think about, how to apply IX leadership and culture types in your own life. So it's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. Good job. Good for remembering. And we're just excited to go. We have not missed an event, a Women in Business event in 5 years.
I think
More?
I missed one, but I don't even think that's when we were working together. I was out of town somewhere.
And then thank you, Kate. They are awesome. Fabulous. This is really inspired by Shelly, by the way. She has like 3 planners that she runs. So she's got kind of an issue, but she was the inspiration for those. Yeah, and so the cool thing about it is that we launched our book at this event last year. And so it's kind of close, near and dear to our heart. So maybe we'll see you guys there if you're in the area. All right, anything else coming up?
I don't think so.
So stay tuned. We'll be starting to post those interviews, and they're going to be less than 10 minutes. So you actually want to listen, and hopefully it'll be really insightful and fun. Okay. Divorcing difficult clients. Some of you, if not all of you, oh, there's Tony too. Hey, some of you, if not all of you, have clients, and you've probably been in this situation before. So,
and it could be divorcing yourself, not technically, but divorcing yourself, or separating yourself, or putting some space between you and other people in your life who are not healthy for where you're at in a transition.
Yeah,
so it could
also
be
divorcing humans.
Could be both of those things. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the way that I think about, so when we've divorced a client, it really came down to a difference in how we, sorry, I'm going to move the microphone a lot here. It really came down to a difference between how we align our values, how we treat other people, sort of boundaries around availability and respect. So I think there's something to be said about the values piece, aligned values that we talk about a lot in IX leadership.
Yeah, I think so. I guess the reason we always talk about values so much.
Carry on. I'm just going to reply to Beth.
Okay. The reason we talk about values so much is they seem like something that's like normal. We all have values, and probably they're all about the same. Like, I like people who are, one of my core values is honesty. One of them is integrity, and one of them is family, and one of them is spirituality or health or whatever you want to call it. But the reality is those people have different values than that. And also those things mean different things to different people. And so honesty to one person might mean I'll be real honest with whoever I'm working with, but maybe the way I do business is not necessarily honest. And the other person, or the other organization or whatever that you're working with might say honesty in all of the ways. I'm transparent with my clients. I'm transparent with, people I'm working with. I'm transparent with my employees. So, I think that it's worth saying, actually, it's not just, we shouldn't just assume that values are values are values. It's worth saying that, in fact, it's important to know what values other organizations have and other people have, because they are different.
Yeah, and I think actually a great example of that, maybe what we should even do with our own clients, which we don't do, but maybe it'd be a good idea, is when we work with clients, we talk about, not only do we want to talk about values, but we want to talk about behaviors. What do you mean when you say, I'm honest? And then what happens in a room with clients is they say, are we all agreeing in this room to the behaviors that we've identified under this style of value? So if it's trust or honesty or integrity or communication or whatever it might be, understanding the behavior. And I think that's probably the largest disconnect between what people say and then the behavior. Because if I think about some of the clients we've divorced, when we first met them, they said all the right things, or they were our people. But over time, you're like, the behavior didn't necessarily align with what we would assume would be the values that we would share. So I think that's a really important point.
Mhm.
That it's the behavior at the end of the day that, and pretty much I would guarantee that most people don't think they're not being, like if it was an honesty thing, people don't think they're not being honest. They're just being honest in a different way. So
Yeah.
that's the trap. We both think we're right, but we're doing it in a totally different way. So I think that's a really good point.
Yep.
You've been talking about that some this week, not in this context, but so how do I divorce? So the 3 questions this week are: what are the signs you should divorce a client? How have you had to divorce a client, and how do you handle it from start to finish? And then how do I divorce a client? So we can probably start with what are the signs. It's kind of where we started. What other signs?
When you
would
really
have?
start thinking, man, this person's an asshole.
Ding, 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 ding.
Well,
winner.
seriously, like, you can tolerate a lot of garbage from a lot of people, but the moment, for me anyways, the moment that I'm like, man, that was really, I hope, uncharacteristic, but that was really I can't say the words.
Shelly doesn't like us to curse on these things. It's probably wise.
Yeah. So I guess when I, like, the moment that I actually, because a lot has to have gone on before I will really think, like, you know what, that person is really an asshole. So I think when the person hits the limit, the upper limit of the asshole clause outside of culture types,
and it
that's
just
a good
takes you
sign.
a lot to hit that. I've seen that, to have actually turn your perspective that way. It takes a lot of behavior to convince you.
Yeah. See, I'm gracious.
She is gracious.
You might not think so.
Of course she is. Of course they do. The other thing I would say is a kind of a trick for me is when their name comes up on your phone and you don't want to talk to them. You get that face. You're like, no, thank you. I don't. Well, and frankly, what happened with one client that I ended up divorcing was, and I say I because I actually did the thing, but it's clearly us, right? That we ended up divorcing. Is that, well, the first time he called and he was kind of a shithead, like really negative and freaking out about something and like piling all this crap on me that wasn't even mine. I'm like, maybe I have a bad day. Like you tried to say, not everyone's perfect. It's fine. And then, it happened again. And I was kind of, that's all it took for me was 2 times, because there was other kind of little things. But for me, it was really disrespectful of how he was speaking to me. And he was really excited and jacked up. But when no matter what I said, it didn't help, or I couldn't have a conversation because he was just so attack mode that I could not handle that kind of behavior. Like one of the reasons I got out of corporate America was so I didn't have to deal with ridiculous emotional tirades that were unearned, frankly. And so, or even earned, even if you've done the worst thing in the world, people don't have the right to come after you and emotionally and with disrespect. So anyway, that didn't take much. For me, it was about 2 phone calls. And granted, the contract wasn't amazing. It wasn't my favorite contract either. But if he would have been reasonable, I probably would have stuck with it a lot longer. But this is why you want to have termination clauses in your contracts. Maybe that's a different conversation, but we should talk about contracts sometime for those people out there who are thinking of or are running their own companies or starting to think about doing it, what that means. But we had a termination clause that basically said, with 30 days notice, you can get out of the contract, and anything that is owed will be owed, and anything that may have been paid in advance will be paid back. And that was it. So it wasn't that easy, because to finish the story, we had a little email back and forth about, what, you can't fire me, blah. And I don't think he called me. I think it was his email. And I said, well, I can. Here's the termination clause in the contract. And then we had a little more fighting. And then I just stopped communicating with him.
And that is how you fire a client.
And that is how you fire it. Well, that's how we did it. Now, if he would have pushed yet again for the what sort of, you can't do this to me kind of attitude, I would have sent him to the lawyer. That was the next step, right? Is, listen, I don't have the bandwidth. This is why it's so great when people confirm why you fired them or separated yourself from them, you're like, oh yeah, that's why I don't want to be around you completely. And so anyway, so I would have sent him to the lawyer, and that would have cost us money, but I felt like I just was past what I could do if he would have protested anymore. So as it turns out, we haven't heard from that person again. So
I think another important thing to think about when you're wondering if you should divorce a client is when they do have an emotional tirade, and sometimes we forgive those because Mad Hatter principle, and we give people grace for just life happening. But if they don't ever genuinely apologize, like I might lose my mustard on Rachel or Shelly or my kids, or I guess I haven't done that with a client yet where it wasn't expected or asked for. But if I lose my mustard with somebody, I usually go back and say, you know what, I apologize. These 3 things I said were out of line. I meant what I said. I meant the message I intended to get across, but I didn't deliver it well or whatever. So I think if people are not genuine in apologizing for like actual disrespectful behavior, that's a good sign. And another thing I would say is, Rachel pointed out that in that contract, it was work that we could do, but didn't love. And so I'd be on the other end. Don't be the person who nobody wants to partner with and say you'll take on some work or get something done and then not follow through. Don't take on things you don't want to do. Guarantee you won't do it well if you get it done.
Yeah, that is a good lesson in the sense of maybe how to avoid firing people is to not work with them in the first place. So being discerning as a company is really a gift, and you have to get to a certain place in your organization to feel like you can turn down business, frankly. But in that case, I think it served us for a time, but it became very clear that the way in which we entered into the contract was, we found out about a month after we started, there was a lot of disingenuous, we're at this point and now we need you to get us from here to here. Well, we found out that they were actually way back here. And so the start of the contract, we should have just said, no, sorry, we can't do all this. Like we weren't really honest about where you were to start with. And so, but instead of canceling that contract a year ago, we as a fixer, so this is a problem that fixers have. I thought, well, we can just help you from here and then we'll get there eventually. And wouldn't that be great? We'll do it together. And it turned out to be a complete disaster. So lesson learned for me is, to echo what Meg was saying, or to add on, know your culture type and know what traps that you have that will get you into things that maybe you shouldn't be in the first place.
Yeah. Because there's quite a few people on here that work within organizations and not for themselves. So to spin this into how do I separate myself emotionally from people who are emotionally damaging, draining, but I still have to work with them. You don't have to be friends with everyone you work with, and you can still have good working relationships with those people. And a lot of times it happens in an organization that causes anxiety for people, where you're like, gosh, I wish I just would have to see you again, is when people are gossiping. And it's, oh, well, Rachel and I'll talk about Shelly, and then Shelly and I'll talk about Rachel, and then I'll go over here to Bill's office and Bill and I'll talk about, how the corporation is going down the toilet. And that causes anxiety for people because it causes strange feelings and uncertainty. So I've been through different points in my life, personally and professionally, where I've said to people, I've had conversations with very dear friends of mine, I can't talk to you because if all you're going to do is whine about life or, and not do anything about it, or bellyache about the corporation or whatever it is, I can't. I have a job to do. And thinking that I hate where I work because you keep telling me I should hate it is not conducive to what's going on here. And that was really hard to manage when I was at the mine and we were going through the transition from one company to another. We were bought out. And I was the HR manager, so it was a little easier for me because it was actually my job, but I had I had close relationships, with a lot of the people in the organization, and they relied on me and trusted me to make sure that for them and their benefits and compensation, the transition went well, and they were really worried. So I had to, say, hey, listen, I respect you're concerned about that. I get you don't like it. We're going to a new health insurance provider or whatever, but that's what we're doing, and it'll be fine. Can't hear you right now about that. So I think we all think that we have to listen to that and be part of it because socially that's just what we do and that's the accepted behavior, but you don't have to be. And yes, spoiler alert, you will piss people off if you say that. As an independent, it doesn't bother me. If you're a stabilizer, it will be impossible, almost, I would bet. But you can just
crippling.
Make sure you distance yourself from those people, even if you don't say anything. But if they're actually causing you to think like, oh my gosh, I don't want to work here anymore, don't hang out with those people. They're not good for you right now.
Yeah, and frankly, it's a trap because not only are they not good for you, but they you've been in the situations where your brain is spinning on all of the shit that is being circulated, right? So I've seen it feed on each other. So, someone comes into your office and then you go, like you said with Shelly, but literally I've seen in a big organization where people hop from office to office to office in an afternoon, and literally everybody, and then of course 2 people after that person talked to you then talks to me, and then 2 people after that comes and talks to that person, and pretty soon the entire organization comes to a screeching halt because nothing is getting done. And so it's not just the bummer of the shitty talk, because that is a bummer, but it's really hard to get yourself out of that because of course you're all stressed out about the same thing, and it feels good to vocalize and talk about that stuff. And there probably is a little bit of need for that, but maybe it's at the bar after the day, or how you navigate it is really important. And maybe that's you're the voice of, hey, what if this is a good thing? Or, hey, how do we think about this? We still have to get the work done. So how are we going to actually take this on and keep moving forward? Because that's for the stabilizers and the fixers in the room. It'd be really hard to say, well, that's not true. I have been able to say, I don't know, Steve, my friend Steve's probably not on. So I can say this friend Steve who would come to my office when I was in my PhD program, and he would just want to just chat. Because he's bored. I don't know. He didn't have anything to do. I don't know how this is possible. And I would just say, Steve, get the F out of the office. Get out of here, man. I can't talk to you right now. So, but Steve has a very thick skin, and we had that relationship.
Yeah. Well, another good trick, though, because I've had to do that too with people I don't have a good relationship with.
Right.
And so a good trick is to say when somebody says, hey, do you have a minute? Set a time limit. Yes, I have 10 minutes, and then I have a call or a meeting or a whatever. And even if you evacuate to the bathroom or to your car, it doesn't matter, but you set a time limit.
It's a great idea. We had another client that this guy was sort of this weird toxic apple in the barrel, and he would go into their office and shut the door behind him, and then they would feel like they were trapped in there.
In their own office.
Like they didn't feel like they could leave. They didn't feel like they could end the conversation because they kept waiting for him to get up out of the chair and walk the hell out the door. And so we were like, get up and leave yourself. Like, you don't have to stay in there. And so the divorcing sort of coworkers who, even though you still have to face them, it's a bit of a delicate dance then, because then you have to still interact and deal with that. But there are techniques that you can use to do that for sure. And the trick of the matter is, it's always shitty. It always feels like shit. Well, maybe not for Meg, she's independent. So you organize independence, rock on. But for stabilizers,
you poor team-driven
I know.
people.
Oh my God, it's so painful. So it's so painful. But the thing that we help with, like, we had the same situation. Someone in a group was kind of ruining everyone else's experience. And so I said, anchor in the goodness that will come, right? So that's the same way with this client. When I divorced this client, I dreaded sending this email that said, consider this email the notice of our 30-day notification to terminate our agreement, right? Like I rewrote that email 17 times before I sent it. Probably the first one would have been fine. Well, yeah, the first one, second. And, but what I had to hold on to was, what is the good after all this is done? I never have to deal with this person. I never have to fight this. I never have to feel guilty about all the things, And so that was the advice I gave to the person I was talking to yesterday. I'm like, focus on how wonderful it will be after you don't have to deal with this person anymore. And so it's hard to do, but you just have to really be anchored in that future state that's going to be better.
Yeah.
What else did you get?
I think we actually kind of organically answered all the questions, and we're at 25 minutes. So
Look at that. Perfect. Do you guys have any questions for us related to this or other topics? And there's always like a 2-minute delay, so we will blather on about something else if you have a quick question. I don't know if it showed up because it's grayed out. So the Beth asked, will planners be at the SDCO event? Yes. If you came in just after Meg made the announcement, they will be on sale. They're just shy of $20 a piece, but I think we'll just sell them for $20. We'll eat the sales tax just so we don't have to make change if people have 20s.
yes, we
And
will.
thanks, because that seems like a thing that we wouldn't do very well. So we're just going to say they're $20 even. If you order it through Amazon, you can order it through Amazon already if you want one, or if you won't be at the event, you're welcome to do that. We've already sold lots of them through Amazon, so you're welcome to do that. But they will be in person in our hands on the 18th. So
Yeah.
awesome. Any other news or situations?
Nope.
Sitches?
Nope. Nothing for me.
What's coming up? There's got to be something.
We just talked about all that at the beginning.
I know.
Listen, Fixer Freddy, give it up.
There must be something to say.
Right.
I guess there's a 3-day weekend coming up. We can celebrate that.
We could just get off and then we'd quit wasting people's times, because those of us who are self-driven are done talking now.
They're over it. They're over it. You can see it's exhausting. Culture type differences. All right, everybody. Well, have a great day, and we'll see you next week, if not before.
Lead powerfully.
Change the world.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.